Let's talk about 5 ways to overcome religious guilt. Good morning, my friends. It's I, John, here in the living room having a magnificent morning. Um, it actually is a rainy, drizzly day outside, which oddly enough, I love these kind of days. Sitting here in the home with a little chill in the air, drinking my mug of coffee, enjoying, just enjoying this time of rejuvenation, because here in Akron, I don't know about where you are, but here in Akron, we've had a very dry year, very little rain this year. And to see rain now, to me, it's like, look, all the trees are being nourished. All the trees are being um, fed the water that they've been looking for. The grass is greener. The grass is growing, which means I have to go mow it. But I just like to see these cool, wet days because as I look out the window, I think how good it is for those plants and animals to have these days of moisture in their lives. Um, I wanted to talk about religious guilt. We live in a life where many of us grew up in religions from early on, and Christian religions especially are really good at making you feel guilty. You're born in sin because you're a bad person, right? Your whole life is told you're going to burn in hell for doing bad things. Your songs say that you're wretches, you saved a wretch like me. Um, they throw out these horrible ideologies about personal identification, these thoughts of you're a bad person, you're a flawed person, you're a sinful person, you're a nasty person, and you have to be in the church so that we can keep you safe from your own nastiness. And that's pretty much what they're teaching. But I thought it would be interesting to give you 5 key ways to break free of this religious guilt. The first thing that I would want to say is examine your own beliefs and your own values. Find out, what do you truly believe? Now, Einstein said that the greatest decision you'll ever make is whether you live in a friendly or unfriendly universe. Do you believe you live in a positive world? Now, to put this into a religious context, do you believe in the Old Testament God or the New Testament God? In the Old Testament, God is vengeful and jealous, and in the New Testament, God is love. So do you believe God is love, or do you believe God is vengeful and jealous? And that is a present moment choice. And the difference is exactly what Einstein said. One of them is unfriendly, and one of them is friendly. You get to choose which one you want to believe in, because you're being presented with options: a vengeful, jealous God or a loving God. Which one do you want? So when you come to that place of realizing that your guilt is not coming from the loving God, it's coming from the vengeful and jealous God. It's coming from the one who's going to judge you and tell you you're bad and knock you down and tell you you're a sinner. And that's all coming from this vengeful, jealous God. So you've got to break the cycle of realizing that's a God of the Old Testament. That's not a God of what Jeshua taught. God is love, and perfect love drives out fear. That's the book of John, by the way. And when you think about it from that perspective, and you decide that your world is sort of living into this loving God or love itself, what you find is the values of guilt fall away, because all guilt is the fear of not being loved. Well, if you are living into the world of a loving God, then you are always loved. Love is pure. Love is complete. No fear can exist in pure love. And when you look at it from that perspective, you realize that the fallacy of guilt itself falls away, because that guilt itself is not of your chosen belief in a loving God. The second way that you can find your way out of this guilt is to look around your own community, look around for people, look around online who are speaking and living from a positive, loving perspective. Find the people that are living in the way that you would like to live. Look at the what their words, look at their actions, look at the things they're doing, and say, I admire that person because they are living the life that I would like to live. They love, their laughter, their joy, their excitement. Look at that and seek their guidance. Reach out to them. What makes you so happy? And let them tell you their secret, their belief system, right? As you hear all these different belief systems from all these different people, you're going to find that you're going to hear some personal truth in there. Because the reason you are seeking, the reason you're watching this video is because you're looking for a way to release this guilt, right? And if you reach out to somebody who doesn't have that guilt, you find out how they got rid of their guilt. You find out why they're so joyful. And you can use their example as an opportunity for you to do the same things. So seek guidance, find someone who's doing it and literally ask them what they did. And when you do that, you get this new perspective on life. I just watched a video this morning about a woman who was from Germany who moved to the United States. And her video was about all the really good things about the United States. And it's really interesting when you look at it from the perspective of, here's a person who's could very, very much guide someone into seeing how America is a beautiful, wonderful place. So, she's not my personal person that is my guide per se, but she can be a guide just by giving her experience. Go online, you find someone saying, "Well, look how amazing America is with all these things and how positive people." This is one of the things she said. She says, coming from Germany, she says, American people are so friendly and so positive and always wanting to help. And it's so funny because I have so many Americans who tell me how terrible America is and nobody cares and it's horrible. This person's whole perspective is entirely different. And if you're interested in seeing that video, I put it in the community page. Go check out that video because it shows you America's this amazing place. It also shows you the things that we can change to make even better. It's a very positive video. And she has such joy in her about America, which I thought was just beautiful. She can be a guide for somebody to say, look, this place is not terrible, is not horrible. It's wonderful, right? My world is more beautiful. I don't have to be guilty. I live in a beautiful world. And finding a guide who will show you the beautiful world is a very quick way to release your own guilt and come back to that space of living in a loving world. The third way is to practice self-forgiveness or self-compassion. When you look at your world, you're told that you're guilty, you're told that you're bad, you're given this subconscious belief that you've done something that you need to be forgiven for. And we live into this world that we believe we're bad, so we have this guilt of feeling like we're bad people, and we're given that at birth in a lot of cases. You're born in sin, you're baptized, first communion, you're accepting this new thing, by the time you get to age 13 and you come to confirmation, you're told you have to confirm you believe that you're terrible, pretty much, that the profession of faith. I believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth, right? And that he died for our sins and all these professions that we have to believe. In reality, they're telling us the parameters by which we have to live. And I always go back to the mathematics of spirituality. 30% of the world are Christian. Less than half of those are practicing, and getting smaller. That number's getting smaller every day. 54% of Christian congregations have fallen away over the past 20 years. The Christian church is very quickly shrinking. So these fear-based ideologies are falling away because people are realizing they're not terrible. They're not bad people. They're not sinners. And they're not living into this fallacy of a religion that's just trying to hold sway over them since the Middle Ages and before. It got really bad in the Middle Ages, which is why I specify that. So the concept of needing forgiveness is not something you've done per se, and this religious guilt. it's because they've indoctrinated you into that ideology that you're guilty before you've had a chance to do anything. And when you come back to that space of realizing that I can have compassion for myself and know that I'm not a bad person, declare that I'm not a bad person, forgive myself. Now, forgiveness is a big word, but I tend to think of it as FORE dash give. Give love first. Give yourself love first. Choose to love yourself first. Choose to put that expression of love into the world as who you truly are. There's nothing in religion that you're guilty for. There's nothing in that ideology that Jeshua would ever have said you're guilty for. It goes against everything he taught. And, greater works than I have done, you will do. I leave you one commandment, love one another. It doesn't say I leave you one commandment, make everybody feel guilty about being crap. It doesn't say that. It says, leave you one commandment, love one another. So come back to that space of realizing that not only can you love one another, but you have to love yourself first and equally. Treat yourself like a friend. Become that space of friendship with yourself. Greatest friend you'll ever have is yourself. And so give yourself the leeway that you would give a friend. So it comes back to that space of realizing that you yourself are a fine person, a beautiful person, a loving person, a caring person. And that guilt you have was levied upon you as a child for you to carry through life to know you're a bad person, but you're not. You're a beautiful, loving, caring person. I don't know any parent in the world who ever held their child for the first time and said, "Ooh, what a nasty sinner." No, they held that child. No, my baby, I love my baby, and they hold the baby, and they just show this. There's a complete upswelling of love for this person that's in front of them, that's part of them. They don't think of them as a sinner, but we're told we're sinners because that's the ideology that's given to us at a young age. And you can break that by simple choice. You can ask the mountain to move and it'll move. Nothing is impossible for you. Choose it. Choose to believe that you are a good person, a loving person, a caring person, and that the religious guilt of hell and damnation, all of that is from that religion telling you that you had to be afraid because you're a bad person, you may go to hell. But the church itself comes from Judaism, and in Judaism there was no hell. There's Sheol, the place where people go when they die, because they had to make up something to make an idea where they went, right? So Sheol, there was no punishment, there was no judgment. And it wasn't really until we got into 600 years later when they started adding hell and judgment into it. And then when Dante wrote his Inferno in 1300, that's when we got the real big ideologies of the levels of hell and all that stuff. Someone this morning, just on one of my videos, said, not only is there hell, there's many levels of hell, and you're going to experience them. Well, he didn't realize in saying the many levels of hell, that's Dante. That's 1,300 years after Jeshua even walked the earth. So when you look at it this way, forgive yourself. You're living in a guilt that comes from a mythology, and the mythology is not in any way, shape, or form factual. Number 4 is to understand how guilt has played a role in your life. What things haven't you done because you felt guilty? What things have you limited yourself in believing you could accomplish because of the guilt? What things have created bad relationships because of religious guilt? What things have been limited in your life because you felt yourself to be a bad person? Had you not felt yourself to be a person that needed forgiveness and was guilty of something, would you have done things differently? And it comes down to this understand the role of guilt. It's a role, it's a character. Guilt is a character in your life. Well, you can write that character out of your story. Write that character out of your story. Let guilt be something that's in the waistband. If it was a movie, it'd be on the cutting room floor. Let guilt be on the cutting room floor. You get to choose to create from that perspective, because understanding that role is to realize that role is unnecessary. Understanding that role that guilt is playing is to understand that the guilt itself does not share a good story. It shares a negative story, and you get to choose the story you're telling. Releasing that guilt only gives you the opportunity to become brighter in the world and express a more beautiful, loving person, as opposed to limiting yourself by guilt and doubt and fault. You know, all of those are falsehoods. Guilt and doubt and falsehood and fault, all falsehoods. They're not reality. They don't actually tie into what was taught before the churches grabbed a hold of the religion and started creating rules and regulations. You have to understand the Christianity of today really didn't get it start into play until 400 years after Joshua walked the earth. And there's no direct written anything from his life. People say, but John, there's a Bible. Yeah, but the Bible, according to all scholars, was written 70 to 200 years after the crucifixion. So they weren't written in the contemporary time of Joshua, and they were not in any way, shape, or form written by the people that they're attributed to. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you're looking at I'm basically reading a story, and we know it's got to be a story because each of the books has different stories. 3 versions of the walking on water, 2 versions of Judas's death. Vengeful and jealous God in the Old Testament, a loving God in the New Testament. It's the book is not infallible. It's completely flawed in every way, shape, or form because it's written by people who didn't know the key players and the key roles. And so what did they do? They leaned into the role of guilt to make you adhere to the belief system. You don't have to fall into their trap anymore. Start acknowledging you're writing your own story and stop being a story in someone else's. And that's the quickest way to break free of this, understanding that guilt has held you back in so many ways. But once you release that guilt, you can open the door of your velvet cage and fly. The velvet cage, I talk about the velvet cage, I've talked about on several videos. The velvet cage, it's a place you're very comfortable in the limitations, but you can open the door and fly at any time. When I say very comfortable, we understand that these are the rules, and so I'm not going to mess with the rules, and I'm going to hold on to the rules, and I'm very comfortable navigating these rules. But the reality is, you can open your door and fly, and when you jump and fly, you have the ability to go anywhere, up or down, all around. You have the ability to create anything, and that guilt has played a role in your life that has held you in that velvet cage. And now it's time to say, okay, I'm going to go be me to the fullest extent. And I'm going to be a loving, caring person. And when you do that, you're literally declaring in God's name that you're a loving and caring person because God's name is I am. I am a loving and caring person. And that is a way of releasing that role of guilt because you no longer have it because I am a loving and caring person, not I am a guilty person. The fifth element of overcoming guilt, and this is one that is just kind of an addition. It's seek out spiritual counseling, seek out spiritual therapies if you need to. But I would say less about getting into a therapy that's going to rehash the past and find a life coach or someone who's going to show you how to empower your present. Because you seek out that empowerment, you're no longer trying to eradicate the guilt. You aim towards the positive outcome as opposed to the negative outcome. Don't go to the anti-war rally, go to the peace rally. It comes back to this idea that you have the ability to find people who can help you, guide you, take you through. They're going to give you new tasks. They're going to give you new goals. They're going to, and I say give you. They're going to help you find your goals if they're good. If they're giving you things, then that's less empowerment and more cultish following. You want if you find a good counselor or a good spiritual therapist, you know, they're going to be someone who's going to empower you in your belief. But if you go to a spiritual counselor, make sure that their spirituality is the spirituality you want to be in, because a lot of spiritual counselors are actually heavily indoctrinated into Christian ideologies. So you got to find the people who are willing to be a life coach, be someone who's going to show you that you can find the power within you to create anything. Check out their testimonials, check out their uh, results, because it's the results that means everything about changing your life. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I'm not a life coach. I personally prefer, when I do private sessions, to do one-offs. I like to put somebody on their path, or help them break free of their limitations so that they can create and go out and do. I want people to come to a session and walk away feeling like they can do anything and then go out and do it. But when they keep coming back with the same problems, I know they're actually not doing the work. And I would much rather have one-off sessions than multiple life sessions, because in my mind, I'm becoming a crutch at that point, and I can't be a crutch. And there will come a time when I finally say I have to yank the crutch away, and the reason is because the leg doesn't get stronger if the crutch is not pulled away. You got to pull the crutch away so that the leg can actually bear the weight and then get stronger. If you never take the crutch away, the leg never gets stronger. And so when you're going to a spiritual counselor or a spiritual therapist, make sure they're in alignment with what you want and that they're empowering you to step into your power so you can throw your crutches away, let go of those guilt. Now, I am not a big believer in going through long processes. Now, why is that? Because we only live in one moment. And if you want to spend a lot of your moments working through something or processing through something, that's really up to you. I tend to think that my future is coming into my experience based upon my present moment belief. So I don't waste my moment on working through something. I take my moment and I empower my moment to bring something into my life. I know that the future is coming to me. Time comes to us. We don't travel through it. And I know that if my belief now is going to be shown to me in the next moment. So I just literally negate the negative thoughts. I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. I'm joyfully receiving a life. And so what happens is my world becomes the expression of that belief, the belief that I am creating this. And it comes into my experience very quickly because I don't do the processes and the work and all that other stuff because I think it's unnecessary. Because I know all I have to do is change my present moment belief. And my present moment beliefs can be habitual. They can be coming from my subconscious mind. And habits can be changed. Science literally says somewhere between 21 and 60 days of repetitive action creates habit. So in other words, your process can be 21 days, right? If that's what you want to do. But the question really comes to how long are you going to work on it? Because a lot of people sit in the concept of working on it. I know people who've been in therapy and dealing with stuff for 30 years, and they're not any better. They're just rehashing over and over again, and they're declaring that I'm acting this way because of that thing that happened to me all those years ago. They're literally in Groundhog Day, playing things over and over again, rather than letting those experiences leave their life and get further and further away from them until they're no longer inside. And it comes down to, if you go to the route of needing an external counselor or a life coach or something, always use your discernment as to whether they're empowering you or just giving you a method, because that's hugely important for your own spiritual growth, your own awareness, your own release of guilt. Because what will also happen, you can get into a spiritual counseling session, they can give you these tasks that you have to do. And if you don't do them, what's going to happen? You're going to feel guilty. You're going to go, it's going to perpetuate the guilt that you feel. And that's going to be not helpful in any way, shape, or form. And so these are the 5 things. Examine your beliefs and values. Seek guidance from trusted mentors and people who have those kind of experiences. Practice self-forgiveness and self-compassion. Understand the role of guilt in your life and take the role of guilt out of your life, out of your story. Engage in an actual structured therapy if you get that far. I don't particularly think that It's helpful, but for some people it is. But I think that you have to remember what you think you become, you create your world. And thought by thought, you forge your destiny, which means right here, right now is the moment of creation. And you can create work or you can create a joyful, loving life without guilt. And that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.